Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Wake the town and tell the people. Reggae Boyz community. I'm your host, Leroy Smart. And today we're going to be chatting about the National Stadium redevelopment, Independence Park redevelopment, the office redevelopment. Yes, finally, upgrade works on the National Stadium will start next year and finish in 2028. 2025 to 2028, the National Stadium is going to have a reduced capacity because, as stated, the athletics track and the football pitch will remain in use, whilst the work will be carried around the ground in phases. Now, for those of you who don't know, let's give you a brief recap of the National Stadium, which was built in 1962, held the 66 Commonwealth Games, had the Independence Day celebrations held there, and various events over the years. Of an international nature, not too many. A couple of Caribbean youth tournaments have been held there, but primarily it's used for athletics meets, schoolboy football finals, Major League Football finals, but never really a major consideration in anything else. Now the stadium is over 50 years old, and it remains kind of unchanged from when it was first built. Concrete roof over the main stand, which holds about 5,800 people. Very hard seats, and cover only on that side, and the rest of the ground is open with bench seating, plank, wooden, whatever you want to call it. Now, the works which have been announced in the local press kind of missed out one important factor, in my opinion. No news on the football pitch, no upgrade or new surface, nothing. Now, if the work is going to cost, and the figure which was announced in 2022, when the upgrade works were announced, and the costing was 76 million. However, I would confidently guess that it's going to cost over 100 million now. And doing a bit of research, the comparable maybe country of size and maybe football interest I looked at was the Sierra Leone Stadium, Sheikh Hasina Stadium. And that was rebuilt by the Chinese, and I think the work may be close to completion, if not completed now, and that was estimated at 40 million. Now, I'm sure with inflation and cost of living and everything, that's gone up, but originally that was 40 million. Okay, and their stadium could not be used for football matches or anything. It was totally run down. So in association with the Chinese, they're doing it for 40 million, let's say 50 million. Independence Park was stated in 2022 by the ladies in charge of sports and culture. Well, culture, gender and sport. Let me be correct. Was announced at 76 million. That was 2022. Let's just say over 100 million now, okay? Of which 95% will be met by whoever, and 5% by, I would think, that same department. So it's a 5% cost sharing agreement. The architectures, apparently, Ryder Architecture and CAA Icon, have been responsible for work on the O2 in London, Emirates Stadium, San Siro, and one or two stadiums in Spain. So they've got a good record of building and delivering. Will it be delivered on time? Who knows? So let me just quickly go through what has been requested from them to get rid of the bleachers, right? So we know that we only have one roof over the stadium. Anybody else on the ground, you sit on bench seats and you go burning in the hot sun. And the name of it, bleachers, just kind of shows you how you go bleaching at the sun. So that will be gotten rid of. Now, I also understand that there's going to be partial covering over that side. Maybe another stand opposite the main stand on the opposite side, and that will be covered. But certainly the whole ground will not be covered. They say semi-covering, so I would assume the safest thing would be to put another roof over that side. I don't know what the new seating is going to look like, but I would expect at minimum bucket seats. You can remove the planking, the wooden seats, the wooden benches rather, and install bolt-on plastic seats because there's no numbering on any seat anyone would get in a stadium. So it's a case where once you're in, you sit anywhere. But maybe with bucket seats, which are numbered, we may be able to have a more organized way of people sitting. I would expect that the seats in the grandstand should be upgraded as well, because they are very hard, especially hard on your back, especially if you're at champs and you have to sit on it all day. So maybe new seating. So anyway, that is the first request. Modern anti-doping facilities, which, yes, as the stadium is excessively used for, no, not excessively, that's the wrong word, but used a lot for athletics, you would expect us to have a world-class anti-doping facility, which we've been criticized for by the IAAF in the past. Establishment of a national sports museum, which, yes, a revenue generator, and with Jamaica's rich history of sportsmen and sportswomen, that would be much needed. You've got the Bob Marley Museum, which is a revenue generator. God knows how much a year that brings in. And even here in England, recently, I visited the Beatles Museum, and that had busload of tourists coming in to see. So Jamaica needs a national sports museum, so I think that's a very good idea, and a revenue generator as well. New facilities for media, definitely. New lighting, that's not even up for discussion. We recently had to cancel or delay a match because of faulty floodlights or lights, and FIFA for a number of years did give us a pass on the fact that the looming on the lights in the stadium were not really up to international quality. So not a moment too soon, definitely need new lighting. Meeting and conference facilities, yes. Any stadium should have facilities for conferences which businesses can hire out for their use. So yes, conference and meeting facilities, which are also a revenue generator. And also, even more important, to have lounges and suites, private boxes. I think at the moment there are 11 boxes and suites at the National Stadium. I don't know what those look like because I've never been there. But also there is a Royal Box. Now that Royal Box has obviously been left over from when the ground was first opened, when you had the Commonwealth Games, and when we had the Independence Day celebration. So we don't need no Royal Box now, man. Knock that down and have a whole bunch of private suites like them having in Europe, and they were bringing revenue. All of them millionaire, the Prime Minister can have 20 I'm for them come in there and pay money for first class dinner and drink and watch the game and bring in some money. So yes, private boxes as well. So those are the real 7 things I've seen here. Now, the cost, as I said, 76 million. But I would assume with inflation, it's going to cost a lot more. Sierra Leone Stadium was estimated to be 50 million. As I said before, 40 million, call it 50 million now. So it'd be interesting what the cost is. All right. Now, it's going to be in 5 phases, some which may already be in place. Phase 1, stadium assessment, all right, and a feasibility study. I'd assuming that's been done already, all right. Phase 2, project initiation and design approval. Phase 3, detailed design and appointment of contractors. All right, so we know who the architects are, so I guess that phase will involve us knowing who the contractors are. Are they going to be international contractors? Are they going to be some local contractors? It will be interesting to see and hear. Phase 4, under construction. And phase 5, readiness and handover. So those are the 5 phases. So I guess once ground starts to break and then start to break up the infrastructure, the cycle track, which as I understand it, will be removed and a new cycle track placed outside. So that space between track and the start of the seating in the stadium, I would assume will involve more seats, because I don't see a need for a cycle track. At least if you can bring the people closer to the action, that would be an advantage. But I don't see why there's a cycle track inside of a stadium which has a running track. Do that separate, and they are doing that. They are moving that outside. Where it is, who knows? But more importantly, from our point of view here, looking at football, we don't need a cycle track dividing the people from the action. All right. It's going to be a 3-year project. Now, when it's going to be delivered on time or not, who knows? Okay. I wouldn't say that Jamaica has a great history of delivering projects on time. So let us not be too optimistic. And also it's announced that the football pitch and the track are going to remain there, so the work will happen around that action. So obviously it's going to be a reduced capacity. What that capacity will be, who knows, but I would assume that the work is taking place in the various phases, so it depends what's happening at the time. So that will be affected, the capacity will be affected, but obviously Independence Park need the revenue, so I don't see them moving any of those events, international friendlies, World Cup qualifiers, friendly matches, champs, whatever, that will still be there at the National Stadium. Now, the most important question I think should be asked is, if we're going to spend 100 million on an international quality stadium, why has there been no word on an international quality surface? Yeah, we spent millions on putting a new track in 2022. Why should you totally revamp a stadium and not upgrade the football pitch? Jamaica's pitch is renowned both locally and internationally for not being the best, okay? Local coaches complain about it, but if you've not played on anything better, that looks like a really good surface to most people. And sure, if you get a drone or you're looking down from television footage on the pitch, it looks nice, you've got the stripes, it's green, but the green is not even, the grass is long. From a footballing point of view, I don't know how long that ground is, but generally a football ground, and I'm looking here because I did have a look at a simple championship club in England with a pristine pitch. The length of the grass is 25 millimeters. Now, the grass at the National Stadium don't look like 25 millimeters. When I look at games around Jamaica on some of the pitches, and that pitch don't look like 25 millimeters. So if that's a great cut for a pristine pitch at a championship club in England, what's Man City, Arsenal, or whatever got? How many times a day do we cut the grass? If we're going to have an international standard football team, which we won't go to the World Cup, we have to give them an international quality surface. Why have Ravel Morrison, why have Tyreek McGee fly from wherever them there upon excellent surfaces to come play on grass at the National Stadium, which long and uneven? It looks even, don't be fooled, but the way to make a bumpy surface kind of even is to leave the grass high. Yeah, that's how you do it. You leave the grass higher so that there's more cushion for the ball to run. But if you have make long pass, the ball's not going to run true. And even if it runs true, it's not going to run quick. You want the ball to move quickly, yeah, not slow. When you look at the passes, you can look at any game at the National Stadium, but just look at the national team games. And when they're passing the ball, it's not slick, it's not quick, it doesn't skim over the surface. And that's what is needed. Yeah, we don't need the ball to be held up in the grass. And also another thing which is worrying is that a lot of the turf seems to come up when games are being played there. So you look at the Honduras game the other day, a lot of the turf comes up. There's little clumps and little bumps which remain on the pitch. And if it's wet, even worse. So it doesn't look like the surface binds together as it should do. We need a brand new pitch or a lot of work on that pitch. What's underneath? Is it the right bedding? Do we have sprinklers underneath? If not, put some in so that the pitch can be watered regularly. Pitch should be watered regularly and the surface should be uniform. There shouldn't be a lighter green and a darker green because that means different growth. Yeah, different areas getting light. In Europe, they put lights on the pitch. But in the Caribbean, there's enough light and there's enough sun, so that's not really needed. There's no problem with the pitch being open. And remember, in Europe, a lot of the grounds are enclosed wraparound roof, so they don't get in enough shading. Sorry, they don't get enough light due to shading. So the National Stadium, even with two stands, there should be enough lighting to keep it uniform. But the surface needs to be improved. We can't be spending 100 million on upgrading a facility and we're leaving the same deggy football pitch. Don't be fooled. It looks good to a lot of people, but if you don't know better, you won't expect better. I have seen blogs since Jamaica's game against the US has been announced. I've seen blogs from YouTubers and one or two people in the FA in America where they actually say, right, trip to Jamaica, never an easy place, and we have to play on that pitch. And even comments that they think that it's a deliberate ploy by the Jamaican Football Association to have a bumpy pitch. They think it's a deliberate ploy, but let's not give the JFF credit for that, all right? They probably think the surface is adequate, or they can't do nothing about it since they don't own the ground. But believe me, anyone who's watching this from America, it's not a deliberate ploy. It's just turned out that way. The pitch has been worse in years. And the problem with the National Stadium is that it is used by various other stakeholders. So athletics, fine. But a couple of years ago, before a World Cup qualifier, you had Burna Boy selling out the National Stadium. Thousands of people walking across the pitch, and they had to be ready 5 days later. Now, if it takes 3 days, and I've done my research, after a professional football match in Europe or in America, it takes 3 days for the first surface really to come back to normal. And that's just after a football match. How long do you think it will take to put the pitch back to normal after a concert? So if a normal football match, it takes 3 days for it to get back to normal, cutting it twice a day, watering, rolling it, everything. After a concert, how long do you think it will take? No. We'll put the Reggae Boyz on it 5 days later. Not good. If you want international football, remember one of my previous programs? Do we want tiki-taka football or effective football? With a pitch like that, you're going to get effective football. You think you can put Messi on the surface there and expect tiki-taka for 90 minutes or even slick passing? Yeah, so we want our team, we want the Reggae Boyz for play slick. We want Ravel, if him ever get called up, for look slick. We want Tyrant McGee for look slick with him passing. But you have to get on the surface. All right? 100 million we have spent, not a penny on the pitch. Yeah? Not a penny. So we know, so them a revamp everything in the background. Them a put on second roof. Them a put in new seat, new lighting, bar facilities, everything. You got much, you have more choice for eat and drink. Hopefully, you know, burn up in the sun. But we are look on the same dry, long grass pitch, which look good from a distance. But look on any picture of a player on top of the pitch and you will realize, no. And what's with the fact that every time we play a match, clumps of the turf are come out. So when the game finishes, look like, say, when I know an animal, them a feet on the pitch. So, what I want to know in YouTube world, please put your comments down below. What do you think about the non-announcement of upgrades to the playing surface? You know, you're going to have chumps and everything, pole vault, shot put on that pitch. Yeah. When a shot put is put onto that surface, it will leave dents, which have to be evened out, but not with the best equipment in the world. Yeah, we can't, like Wembley, have the pitch constructed of rolls of turf, which when they want to hold a Taylor Swift or any of them concert, they then just roll up the turf, take it out, take it somewhere, leave it, keep it alive. People can run up and down on the surface. When the concert done, then just bring in the turf again. Yeah, that take 3 days. We can't do that now in Jamaica. But what we need is something like, and I know they have it, you can put a plastic or something like that over the pitch, which is translucent or whatever the word is, so allow lighting and everything. And if you're going to have a concert there, you put that down a day or two beforehand. Yeah. Put that down so people don't mash up the surface. And when the concert done or the event done, you just take it up again. That's a simpler solution. We can't take up the pitch and take it out and make people run up and down and do them concert and bring it back. So let us try something alternative. But why is there no announcement of the playing surface? I've seen a program on TVG from last year where they were going through the improvements at the Montego Bay complex, Catherine Hall. There's a brother there, Side Campbell, was talking about the grass and how I'm going to grow it and everything, but he was growing it from scratch. So does anyone know, is the surface at the Montego Bay complex better than or equal to that at the National Stadium? What's the surface like at the Trelawney Hall complex? Because those are the only three facilities really which can be viewed as international standard-ish to play matches on. The Reggae Girlz are going to be playing at Catherine Hall, Montego Bay. That's the same facility for those who are not familiar with other terminology. The Reggae Girlz are playing 2 games there in November. It's been announced, so they're obviously not playing at the National Stadium, and it's a good thing because the crowd ain't going to be sufficient enough to create an atmosphere. So yes, hopefully the Montego Bay complex with a 7,000 capacity can kind of fill out. But I'll be interested to see what the surface is. But if anybody know what the surface is now, put it in the chat. Yeah, comment. I'd love to hear. And what about the Trelawney Sports Complex? Can that be upgraded? Even to hold another Caribbean Junior tournament? We really need to look at being best in class. If we want the best in class players, we want the best in class surface. So I'm asking a question out there today. 100+ million, because the 76 million you announced in 2022, I know that it will cost now. So we are going to spend 100 million plus on upgrading the stadium. How much I go up on the pitch? Will there be a new pitch? Is there going to be an upgrade to the pitch? Is it going to be under soil sprinkling? Any over soil sprinkling? What improvements will be done to that surface to make it A class? Please like, share, and subscribe. Leroy Smart, Reggae Boyz community.